This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. It is September 25th, 2024. So I want to make sure everybody out there who is listening to this video doesn't think that it's a repeat, because it might sound like deja vu. You might think it's a re-upload, but it's not. Because the media is reporting again that we're going to see the Northern Lights in the United States of America. Now, why is that significant? Well, you might just roll your eyes and say, I don't care anymore. And that's the point. That's how this whole thing works. The more you become desensitized to it, the more you hear every other day that the Northern Lights are now visible in almost every state in America, you just dismiss it. You don't even notice it anymore. Thus, you don't realize that your government is manipulating your sky, that these aurora lights they're telling you about, that they're blaming on all these different things with the earth and shifting poles. The only shifting poles are the ones that they have jammed up their rear ends. And I'm talking about the global elites. There are no shifting poles going on here. This is mass manipulation of the sky that we're seeing. And the more they tell you this about the Northern Lights, the more people are just going to start rolling their eyes and dismissing it and saying, what's the big deal? Who cares? In fact, about 6 months ago, it was a big deal to see the Northern Lights in America. Look how that process has worked over the last 6 months, because I've covered it about 5 times now, because it's becoming a monthly thing. Now it's becoming a weekly thing, where Forbes is even telling a solar storm may make Aurora Borealis visible in these states. So if you're wondering, why is this a big deal? It's a big deal because, for starters, this isn't normal. And when things aren't normal, when we see patterns that aren't normal, we need to ask questions. We need to say, well, why is this happening? And we need to reject the misinformation given to us from the mainstream media, the state-run media, because they've done nothing but prove to us that they are doing everything in their power to destroy our lives. So the narrative that they feed us, just like most of these people question the narrative that came out with the outbreak, they should be thinking the same thing with every single story that gets fed to us. And you might say, well, I'm confused about the Northern Lights. I mean, what's really the big deal? Well, for starters, you need to understand that HAARP has the ability to make artificial aurora lights. They have the ability to create all sorts of things in the sky that are artificial. Thus, they have the ability to deceive you. And the common people out there, or as we like to call them on this channel, the sheeple, will be deceived. So you can find for yourself that scientists are using radio transmitters to create artificial auroras, but what you never find is an answer that makes sense. Kind of like what I talked about with CERN, where we just keep hearing about CERN opening a black hole. And then when we say what we think they're doing, even though it's hard for a lot of people to process, you need very strong spiritual discernment to get it. They just give an answer like, oh, they're not engineers. They don't understand science. You know, we're talking about rocket science here. You know, these people don't get what we're actually doing, but it's not as complicated as you think. All one needs to do is realize that these people who claim to be scientists, who claim to be politicians, these people who claim to have our best interests in mind are nothing more than liars, because they're of their father, the devil, who is and has been a liar from the beginning. So we're seeing aurora lights, right? We're seeing the Northern Lights almost weekly now. I covered it 2 weeks ago, September 12th. Okay, so keep these things in mind as I tell you what's going on. I read you what they're telling you it is. And think to yourself, what could this potentially lead to? As we see more and more people do not care that we're seeing the Northern Lights in the sky, because they fully believe that there's no way that they have the ability to manipulate and create it. Well, now get that out of your head, because they do, and they've admitted to it. So then you have to ask yourself why, right? Well, let's look at other things happening at the same exact time. We're having weekly/bi-weekly Northern Lights visible in states that you'd never ever see it before, because it usually was only in Alaska. And for anybody out there that wants to comment, because I read the comments and I've seen some people say, well, I saw it back in the 1960s or 70s where I was, and it was an anomaly. Okay, maybe you saw an anomaly one time in 80 years. This is monthly. It's hit almost every state in America, and other people are reporting in their countries too, so they're clearly doing some type of an experiment in the sky. Their answer about shifting poles, all this stuff, is nothing but make-believe science that they get you to believe so that you don't think you could be duped into something, and they're planning on duping you into something. So the other thing happening at the same time is the two moons, right? I talked about this with the two moons, where they're talking about, well, it might not be visible to you, but there's going to be two moons from September 29th to November 25th, right? And remember the other stuff I've discussed with the Vatican. Again, it's very important. The Vatican releasing guidelines and evaluating apparitions and supernatural phenomenon. Here's what it means, right? It means events happening in the sky, supernatural-like events. They need somebody to be the authority on it to convince people out there that it's some type of religious event that has nothing to do with the government, that it's supernatural. And the government's telling you right now, they're telling you, we're playing around in the sky. We're messing with the sky. And I think it's funny as well that while all this stuff is happening, you always have to watch what's getting released by Hollywood, because that's how they program everyone, right? We have another movie out from Netflix that a lot of people are interested in called The Manhattan Alien Abduction, right? Where it's a documentary about an alien abduction. Because remember, while they're doing these things in the sky, they need to convince you on the other side of things when you're in a sleep state of mind watching movies, a delta state of mind, which most people are when they watch the news as well. They're programming you. So they're telling you all this stuff's happening in the sky, trying to get you to dismiss it like it's nothing. Well, they're telling you, hey, aliens could be real. Aliens could be coming. Aliens are real. Aliens are coming, right? Meanwhile, they're playing games in the sky right in front of our faces day in and day out and telling us it's all this other stuff. So that's interesting to note. I think it's interesting. Now, alien movies come out almost every single month or two. Maybe not as frequently recently, but this is being promoted on YouTube, the Manhattan Alien Abduction. So that's another thing to keep in mind while we see all these stories about things happening in our sky. So here's the story. They tell you a geomagnetic storm watch is in effect for Wednesday, and scientists predict the storm may cause northern lights to be visible in several U.S. states. The medium-sized solar flare, which again, what do you think they're doing this stuff in the sky with geostorms and being able to manipulate the sky? They're the ones who are doing it. Not to mention these towers, again, that have popped up every mile in the entire country, around the entire earth. There's one of these gigantic towers that does what? Sends out frequencies, right? So, of course, Forbes will give us something immediately to try to dispel people like us from questioning what we're hearing and being suspicious about it. They say solar activity has been unusually busy in recent months as the sun's 11-year solar cycle approaches its anticipated peak between late 2024 and early 2026, with sunspots expected to intensify over the next year and likely triggering more geomagnetic storms. And that paragraph, again, this is how mind control works. 99% of people hear that. They'll try to correct people like you or me if you're talking at a water cooler or on the phone with somebody, or you bump into someone who's seen the northern lights in your town, and they say, did you see the northern lights? And you start saying, hey, we should start being suspicious about what's going on here. Do you know they have the ability to actually create artificial ones in the sky? They do? What are you talking about? Oh, hard. Well, no, I don't think it's that. They're already programmed. This is what programs them, right? It is unusual, but it's got an answer for why it's unusual. The sun's 11-year solar cycle. Oh, it's if that couldn't be make-believe, right? Could that be proven? Well, it's proven because scientists tell us, right? That's all these people need to hear. These scientists that we could trust, the same ones that wanted to get black goo inside of your body, and you were told to trust them, and now a lot of the people who did aren't here anymore, right? So they say, although it's hard to estimate where exactly the northern lights will show up, which is incredible, right? They're just randomly showing up because, that's normal. They say it's hard to predict where, but they may be the most visible Wednesday in Canada, in Alaska, and in the United States in states like Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Maine. So that's pretty wide array. I mean, that's pretty much the entire, North America, right? That's the entire north in the continental U.S. You're talking all the way over from Washington to Maine, okay? All the way from Washington, all the way to Maine. I mean, that's pretty far. It's a lot of miles covered in the sky, right? But don't be suspicious about it. It's just, scientific stuff that you don't understand. Just like CERN, just scientific stuff. Just like when we told you to trust the science, right? And you trusted the science, but the science was make-believe, right? And then everybody realized, hey, wait a minute, I thought this thing's supposed to make you immune. Oh, no. Science changes as it goes. They just use big words, fancy terms, and they tell you to trust the people, trust the science. They programmed you not to question it ever, right? Even though the funny part about it is now we have people convinced that men are born in women's bodies and vice versa, which is just lunatic talk. But this is what they're doing, right? Make believe as they go, which should make people question everything with science, not just magic potions. I'm sick of hearing people who are just questioning, oh, they're trying to get this in us, but then they believe in the stuff they tell you on the news about what's happening in the sky. And you go, oh, is that a coincidence? And you just have to really break it down to them. You got to literally grab them and say, let me read a list of things to you that have happened in the sky this year. Do you know there was an eclipse? Yes, I remember the eclipse. Do you know they could simulate the eclipse? They can. Yeah, here's a company. Here are companies that are simulating eclipses. Did you know that Dubai had too much? Remember the multiple suns in the sky in China and India? Wait, what? Yeah, can I continue? No, that's enough for me. It's too much. Well, let me continue. You know they can manipulate the northern lights. Why would they do that? Do you know they have an artificial sun? Why would they have that? Well, wake up. Okay, these aren't just hobbies. These rich people didn't go, hey, I would like to make my own sun. I've got so much money, I don't know what to do with it. They want you to think like that. They want you to think these people have so much money, they don't know what to do with it. That they're creating carbon vacuums to suck the carbon out of the air, right? Oh, think again. They're trying to suffocate you, right? Because the people with the most money are literally the most psychopathic. And there's a lot of programming that we've seen in movies over the years that show us that the rich folk are pretty sick and insane. But you can only imagine, because what they show you in the movies doesn't compare to the things that these people are doing in secret. And if you're wondering where all those kids on the side of the milk cartons went over the last 20 to 30 years, well, you can look at all your rich elites who are running the corporations who are telling you how to live, what to eat, and now want literally to get into your home and suffocate you and remove carbon from the air on top of everything else. So the alien invasion is part of the major psyop that we're going to see. Now, again, I've emphasized this with aliens and demons. Demons are real. The whole depiction we have of what an alien is, a gray, right? This thing that they've created in our mind. When we hear alien, we hear gray, we think of what it looks like, right? They've programmed that into us. And if you actually look at their hero, the man referred to as the Beast, Aleister Crowley, the depiction of an actual alien that we know of in today's world comes from his teachings, because the thing was called LAM. It was called LAM. Today they call them angels and demons. Tomorrow they will call them something else. And of course, that is the alien deception. They don't want you to get this confused. They want to make sure you think it's an alien and not a demon, because then you'll probably have a spiritual awakening to the Bible being real, and you'll figure out what's actually happening, and you'll be led to God, because most human beings would naturally be led to God as opposed to the devil, unless, of course, they're complete sinister psychopaths who want to worship the devil, which we actually see in our society today. But most people obviously are getting deceived into thinking that God isn't real. And part of that deception is the alien deception that's coming. So we see stuff in the sky while we're being told about alien abductions in the past. Now we're seeing two moons. They're clearly experimenting in the sky. This is multiple times in the month of September that we're being told that the northern lights are going to pop up. We're going Washington to Maine. Okay, we've seen it in Florida now. We've seen it in almost every single state. For people not to realize that this is a simulation is beyond me. But they don't. They don't. And I always talk about repetition and desensitizing people with mind control methods that they use, right? Time goes by, people become desensitized. It may have seemed like a big deal back in May. Look how time has elapsed from May to now. What is that? June, July, August, September, right? Let's say 4.5 to 5 months ago, when we saw the northern lights popping up and we were all talking about it potentially and obviously being a simulation from HAARP, the mainstream media had to come out and say, no, HAARP isn't running a test. That's not real, even though we all have the archive articles and documentation that they do create aurora lights, artificial northern lights in the sky. They just don't want you to realize that they do, because then you might wake up. So from May to now, in May, when this was discussed, people were going, that's crazy. I used to have to go to Alaska to go. If I wanted to see, I thought I had to go to Alaska, man. Oh, well, it's a rare event, they were told. And they said, yeah, it's great. Well, I'm not going to listen to conspiracy nuts. It's a rare event. Then it happened again in June and July. And while people like me were screaming about it, they just were like, oh, what's the big deal? Whatever. Oh, they're going to be aurora lights again. Cool. It's like seeing fireworks for them, right? It's like, what's the big deal now? Oh, we get the northern lights every day. What, we're going to get an eclipse every other day too? What's next, right? We're going to have multiple suns, multiple moons, and none of these people are going to think that there's some type of manipulation going on in the sky, some type of simulation occurring. Clearly, something bigger is coming. This is experimenting in the sky. They're not doing this because they want to play with your, give you a little bit of hey, you need entertainment? We're going to do this up in the sky for you. They're planning a major event in the sky. Project Bluebeam is all about that. I've covered it in previous videos, but I needed to just do a rant seeing this again. I couldn't even believe my eyes. I mean, this is like, it's weekly, right? And then think about what I'm saying here with desensitizing people, right? Are people not desensitized to this now? And that's how quick it works. That's how it works with technology. They hear about AI. Next thing you know, 6 months from now, everybody's on board. Oh, you're weird. You don't have AI. Right now, everyone's like, I don't need AI, right? Just like when the cell phone came out. Just like when I've mentioned so many times with Facebook. When Facebook first came out, every person I knew, every one of them, including me, I said it first and I said it clear. I said, this is gay. Okay, this is so gay. I mean, and not happy, right? This is, I mean, who would want this, right? Well, now you flash forward, what is it, 20 years since that's happened? Every one of those people that said it was gay has it, post pictures of their food. They don't realize they've been socially engineered into it and conditioned into it because they became desensitized to it. At first, they were like, no, never. It's weird. Right? Time goes. They get desensitized. They get programmed on the other end of it, and they don't even care. So they're going to play around in the sky. They're going to give you 2 moons. They're going to give you 6 suns. Right? They're probably going to give us 33 Uranus visuals in the sky. I mean, who knows what else? Nobody seems to care. Nobody's going, what is going on here? Right? Because, I mean, these are the same people that don't notice the chemtrails in the sky and think that it's water vapor. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised. So the Northern Lights are back, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I guess, maybe we'll see them next week, morning, lunch, and dinner. And, next thing you'll see in the sky, see E.T. You'll be told it's normal. It's an alien invasion. These people will follow suit because they are completely socially engineered. It's pretty clear at this point, if people aren't noticing, that a lot of strange things are happening. The answer they're giving you for it is science that you don't understand. You're supposed to believe it. These people have proven to you that they can't be trusted. They've proven that they're liars. You bring truths up to them. They just ignore you and call you all sorts of names and say that you don't understand. No. Well, when you have discernment and you understand scumbags, right? And you understand a liar and a scumbag and you say, oh, I know this guy's BSing me. Then you'll understand a lot of what's happening in the world because all these people that claim to be experts are liars. And it's been proven. It's not just me standing here yelling into a microphone. It's been proven that they're liars. Look at them. Listen to them. Look what they're doing around us. And then all these people out there who even see some of the stuff going on, they're like, the news is fake, this is that, da-da-da-da. And then it's like, they talk about CERN and space and all that stuff, and they still believe that. And it's like, wait, so you believe that this is fake, or even an event in a school is created by the government. That's good. You're getting better. And then they're like, oh, but there's Northern Lights. And you're like, they manipulate that too, right? They're like, get out of here, right? Come on, peel the onion back more. It's all being manipulated. It's all being simulated. That's the term, simulated reality. That's really what it's about. I mean, they're simulating everything around us, telling you it's one thing when it's another. And they have big plans in the sky. And that is very, very clear. They're not wasting they haven't wasted all this time from the 30s and 40s when they started rolling out alien deception stuff every month. People aren't going to these movies because they're like, oh, that's so cool. I want to go see the new Alien. But they're getting programmed. They're not even interested in the films. They've conditioned them into believing that this alien lives in Mars, it's come from Uranus, it visited Saturn, it's coming to Earth, and they've conditioned the same people out there to think the Bible's fake. But they believe in this because it's been programmed into them, and they don't even know why they believe it, right? Because they're getting set up for something big, and they're telling us this with what they're doing in the sky. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you, as always, and your families.